Right now, your own brain might be quietly sabotaging your health, transforming normal reflection into a destructive mental loop. A massive medical study analyzing over 21 million people revealed that conditions driven by a relentlessly overactive mind are heavily impacting adults worldwide. Furthermore, clinical research shows that repetitive negative thinking is not just a symptom, but a primary mechanism that actually causes and sustains new depressive episodes. Hello, I am Dr. Arthur Sterling, and welcome back. Today, we are diagnosing the curse of the overactive mind. We will explore the hidden neurological network responsible for your endless rumination, and why it chronically elevates your stress hormones. The true culprit behind your racing thoughts will definitely surprise you. Let us begin. 1. Why your brain never stops. Right now, if you sit completely still and try to do absolutely nothing, your brain actually starts working harder. You might think an idle mind would power down like a sleeping computer, but functional magnetic resonance imaging does the exact opposite. The moment you stop focusing on an external task, a vast and hidden neurological system called the default mode network flares into action. For our ancient ancestors, this network was a crucial survival superpower. When they were not actively hunting or foraging, their brains used this default state to continuously scan for social threats, predict future dangers, and overanalyze past mistakes. It was an alarm system that kept them alive in a highly unpredictable world. But today, you do not have to worry about a predator hiding in the bushes outside your window. Yet, your default mode network is still desperately searching for a fatal threat to neutralize. When this ancient survival software runs on modern daily life, it creates a relentless mental loop. Instead of predicting physical attacks, your brain obsessively replays an awkward conversation from 3 years ago, or endlessly catastrophizes about a standard upcoming meeting at work. You are experiencing a massive evolutionary mismatch. In a perfectly healthy brain, the default mode network quietly hums in the background, allowing for light daydreaming and productive self-reflection. However, neuroimaging studies consistently demonstrate that individuals struggling with anxiety and depression show chronically elevated activation in this exact same network. It essentially hijacks your mental bandwidth, forcefully transforming normal reflection into destructive, exhausting mental loops. Your brain is not malfunctioning or broken. It is simply working overtime, biologically convinced that if it stops worrying, you might not survive the day. This hyperactive scanning keeps your nervous system locked on high alert, even when you are perfectly safe resting on your couch. And unfortunately, this state of constant, invisible vigilance comes with a heavy physical price, silently altering the very chemistry of your body. 2. The biology of burnout. Every time you vividly imagine a worst-case scenario, your body genuinely believes it is happening right now. The human brain is spectacular at complex simulation, but your internal organs cannot tell the difference between a physical predator and a stressful email. When you lie awake at 2 in the morning, obsessing over a minor mistake you made at work, you are manually triggering your biological fight or flight response. You are flooding your system with alarm signals without ever moving a muscle. Within seconds of that anxious thought, a distress signal is fired directly to the hypothalamus, a tiny command center deep within your brain. It immediately communicates with your adrenal glands, prompting them to pump out heavy doses of adrenaline and cortisol. Now, cortisol is an incredible survival hormone when you need to outrun a collapsing building. It forcefully accelerates your heart rate, spikes your blood pressure, and floods your major muscle groups with glucose for instant, explosive energy. But you are not running from a collapsing building. You are just sitting quietly at your desk or staring blankly at your bedroom ceiling. Because there is absolutely no physical release for this massive surge of survival energy, the cortisol simply stays trapped in your bloodstream. Chronically elevated cortisol levels, fueled by constant stress and overthinking, are highly destructive. They can disrupt almost all of your body's essential processes, heavily suppress your immune system, and halt your digestion. Over time, this constant chemical flood significantly increases your risk for chronic heart disease and creates severe physical wear and tear. Your body is essentially trapped in a permanent state of high alert, burning premium fuel at an entirely unsustainable rate. Have you ever wondered why you feel physically exhausted after a day of doing absolutely nothing but worrying? It is because an overactive mind is a profound metabolic nightmare. Even resting peacefully, a normal brain consumes about 20% of your body's total energy supply. When you are trapped in relentless mental loops, that energy consumption skyrockets. You are essentially running a grueling mental marathon, rapidly draining your glucose reserves and causing severe cognitive fatigue. This profound exhaustion completely shatters your ability to concentrate on the present moment. Your brain becomes so deeply overwhelmed by its own internal noise that processing new, external information becomes nearly impossible. This is precisely why chronic overthinkers often experience heavy brain fog, struggling to read a single page of a book or follow a simple conversation. The United States National Institute of Mental Health notes that the overall prevalence of current adult attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is 4.4%. For a significant portion of these adults, the daily struggle is heavily characterized by an inability to sustain attention, driven directly by these intensely overactive mental states. When your mental bandwidth is entirely consumed by intrusive thoughts, your working memory simply crashes. You start misplacing your car keys, forgetting important appointments, and feeling completely paralyzed by basic daily chores. And what happens when you start failing at these simple tasks? You're worrying about them. This triggers yet another massive release of cortisol, creating a vicious, self-sustaining cycle of biological burnout. Your racing mind completely exhausts your body, and your exhausted body lacks the physical resilience required to calm your racing mind. Beyond just daily fatigue, this chronic exposure to stress hormones literally reshapes your physical brain architecture. Constant high levels of cortisol act like a slow-acting toxin to the hippocampus, the precise brain region responsible for learning and forming new memories. Meanwhile, it actively enlarges the amygdala, which operates as the fear center of the brain. The longer you remain trapped in an overthinking loop, the more structurally wired your brain becomes to panic at minor, everyday inconveniences. You are inadvertently training your biology to be terrified of normal life. You are not just losing sleep, you are enduring a chronic state of biological deterioration. Your heart is working much harder than it needs to, your digestion is heavily compromised, and your cognitive reserves are running completely on empty. The true curse of the overactive mind is that it weaponizes your intellect against your own physiology. And unfortunately, you cannot simply demand a flooded nervous system to calm down. 3. How to tame your mind. If you cannot simply command a flooded nervous system to suddenly calm down, how exactly do you pull the emergency brake on a runaway mind? The answer is not to aggressively fight the anxiety, because fighting it only creates more internal friction and noise. Instead, you have to execute a deliberate, manual override of your own neural circuitry. Your brain essentially operates on a highly sensitive neurological seesaw. On one end, you have the default mode network, which we now know is the primary engine behind your endless overthinking. But sitting on the exact opposite end of that biological seesaw is your executive control network. The executive control network is the specific region of your brain responsible for intense, external focus and active problem solving. It is the precise network that violently lights up when you are calculating a complex math equation, navigating through heavy, unpredictable traffic, or learning a brand new physical skill. Here is the brilliant biological loophole used to your daily advantage. These two networks are entirely anti-correlated. That is a scientific way of saying they literally cannot both be fully active at the exact same time. When the executive control network powers up, the default mode network is forcefully powered down. You cannot just demand your brain to stop overthinking, but you can absolutely starve that overthinking of its metabolic energy supply by abruptly shifting your attention outward. The most powerful way to activate this outward focus is by deliberately triggering what psychologists call a flow state. A study published in Frontiers found that entering flow states successfully downregulates the core regions of the default mode network, diminishing self-referential thought and low-wearing anxiety. A flow state occurs when you become completely immersed in an activity that perfectly balances your current skill level with a demanding specific challenge. This is precisely why knitting, playing a musical instrument, woodworking, or even playing a highly fast-paced video game can feel incredibly therapeutic. These activities are completely objective, and they demand your absolute, unwavering attention in the present physical moment. When you are desperately trying to return a fast tennis serve or assemble a complex, frustrating piece of furniture, your brain simply does not have the spare processing power left over to worrying about an upcoming social event. The immense mental bandwidth required to run your internal anxiety simulation is entirely redirected to the immediate physical task at hand. Your rumination gets shut down completely, not through sheer willpower, but through simple, efficient neurological resource management. However, you obviously cannot just pull out a guitar and start playing in the middle of a stressful corporate board meeting. When you need immediate mental relief in a restrictive, quiet environment, you must learn to actively anchor your sensory system. Most people severely misunderstand meditation. They mistakenly believe it is about forcefully emptying the mind, which is biologically impossible and usually just leads to even more profound frustration. True mindfulness is simply the practiced habit of becoming an objective, silent observer of your own physical reality. Clinical research indicates that mindfulness-based stress reduction effectively lowers cortisol levels, helping to calm the autonomic nervous system and interrupt the relentless cycle of rumination. Instead of uselessly wrestling with a negative thought, you shift your entire focus to raw, immediate sensory input. What does the fabric of your shirt actually feel like against your skin? What is the specific, exact temperature of the air moving through your nose right now? Can you isolate the low, humming sound of the refrigerator in the distant kitchen? By deliberately cataloging these tiny, mundane external details, you forcefully rip the steering wheel away from the default mode network. You are securely grounding your biology in the undisputed, physical reality of the present moment, definitively proving to your highly reactive amygdala that there is absolutely no immediate physical danger in the room. If the internal panic reaches an absolute boiling point, you can even trigger a biological cheat code known as the mammalian dive reflex. By simply splashing freezing cold water directly onto your face, you instantly force your parasympathetic nervous system into heavy overdrive, rapidly dropping your heart rate and shutting down the cortisol factory. Another incredibly effective strategy is cognitive containment, frequently referred to as scheduled worrying time. Right now, your anxiety has unrestricted, free access to your entire day. It taps you on the shoulder while you are eating lunch, taking a hot shower, or trying to peacefully fall asleep. You need to permanently revoke that all access pass. By scheduling a strict, 15-minute window every single afternoon dedicated exclusively to writing down your worst fears, you create a firm psychological boundary. When an intrusive thought unexpectedly pops up at 10 in the morning, you simply tell your brain that you have an official appointment to deal with it at 4 in the afternoon. The curse of the overactive mind is undoubtedly a heavy burden, but it is not a permanent life sentence. Your brilliant, high-powered brain is simply stuck in the wrong gear, aggressively spinning its wheels and burning out your biological engine. By understanding your neurological hardware, deliberately engaging your executive control network, and anchoring yourself in present reality, you can finally turn that excessive mental energy into your greatest asset. You can transform your mind from a ruthless dictator back into a brilliant, obedient tool. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you found this medical diagnosis helpful, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more scientific breakdowns. Until next time, I am Dr. Arthur Sterling, reminding you to take a deep breath and step out of your own head.